Greetings, people of the internet. This is Scott with Serkworks Art Labs, and this is Pro versus Con, Pro Tips for Conventions, where I give you some tips, some hints, some hacks, some things that I learned while exhibiting at comic conventions, pop culture events, things like that. So hopefully there'll be some things that you can take away. A lot of what I'm going to be doing today is kind of specific to what I do, but I still think there's some stuff you can learn from this. So I did post, this is going to be a little more free form than the last video I posted. The last video I posted 5 tips, things that if I was smart I would do at a comic convention, things that I'm not necessarily doing, things that I probably won't do, but things that would probably boost my sales tremendously. But I like to do my own thing, go against the grain, and I'm going to show you kind of what that is this time. So this will be more not things that I'm not doing that I should, but things that I am doing, and some of it works, some of it doesn't. Some of it I'm changing around. A lot of things I'm changing around from last year's Phoenix Comicon. Now I do other shows, I do smaller shows, but Phoenix Comicon's the one I got back from a couple weeks ago. I had another convention after that, a smaller one, a little different market, but I always like to kind of give a recap sort of Phoenix Comicon, because that's the big show for me. That's the one where I'm not like at Artist Alley, I got the big booth and everything like that. So I'm going to compare, and somewhere in the playlist, if you're watching the Pro vs. Con playlist, I think there's a recap of last year's Phoenix Comicon. So I'm going to show you some things I did differently, and just in general, little things that I learned and things that I'm still trying to learn. Because every time you do a show, it's a little different, and you pick up things and you move things around. But there are a lot of things that I changed this year that seem to work or seem to be on the right track. Now, this year, how did I do a Phoenix Comicon? I did all right. I think I did probably as good as I did last year, which, I mean, typically you want to, you want to increase sales every year. Now, I knew I was going to take kind of a hit this year because this is the first year, and I've been phasing these out for the longest time, but I still had some kind of pop culture parody type prints. And anyone that knows, and I talked about this on the last video I posted, but fan art is like a huge seller, and I'm trying to get away from that because it doesn't really fit my brand. Batman, Deadpool, X-Men, all those type of things, Firefly, very cool. I love all that stuff, but it doesn't fit what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to phase that stuff out, and I'll talk some more about some ways I did that, and still kind of, because I've got all this merchant, I've still got some prints and stuff from that. So I had some new ideas, some things that kind of do fit with the brand, and I'll kind of explain what I did with things like that. But the main thing, I knew I was gonna take a hit, because this is the first year that it keeps getting smaller and smaller, the kind of fan art stuff. It was last year was relegated to just this one corner, just because I was trying to get rid of this stuff. It was kind of like the print graveyard. Get these while they're while I still have them. So I came up with a better idea to get rid of those for this year. But anyway, so even though I don't have a lot of them, they still kind of boost sales because they're things people know, and they're things people walk by and they laugh and they see it and they pick them up, and they like that kind of stuff. Where the stuff I'm doing is a little harder to sell. But again, trying to build a brand, trying to keep everything cohesive. So when you look at what I'm doing, you say, oh, I get it. And there's some things I did this year, particularly with signage, that I think helps bring that point across. Now I'm going to show you. I like to go crazy. If you see my booth, and I'm going to throw up some pictures so you can kind of see what it looks like, but I go all out. My idea is to try to get attention by people just walking by and seeing something really cool. Now, as I mentioned on the last video, the problem is people are really stepping up their games at these conventions, and whether they're making cool booths or it doesn't even necessarily have to be a lot of time or a lot of effort spent in the booth, but just a wall of fan art prints is going to draw a lot of people's eyes because it's so massive. And there's all that kind of stuff, whether it's the wall of prints, whether it's the tower of pop vinyl figures or whatever. I mean, there's just so much color and everything. And as you can see from my backdrop, now I don't use this particular backdrop for that very reason, because I kind of found out early on that it's just a black backdrop with my prints against it, it's going to pop a lot more than this thing. So I just use this for this video. But a lot of what I have is really colorful like this, and it kind of tends to get lost. Now, my signage was kind of the same thing. So I'm going to show you, I don't know if I can fit this on the video so you can see it, but this is my signage from last year, Serkworks, you can see. Very cool. I really do like this. It's kind of an older version of my logo. Now it's a little more simplified, which I think is kind of the overarching theme here, is that simplification. So it's cool. I like it. It's very fun, you know, but it does get lost, and it's very, people don't really get it, because I get a lot of people saying, "Oh, what's Sewerworks?" Or I mean, they can't, evidently they can't read that or whatever. So, and it doesn't really explain what I do, because Serkworks, it's just a play on my last name. It's the name of the company I was doing back when I was doing freelance illustration. So I kind of just took that over and kind of used it for what I'm doing at the conventions. But now I'm kind of trying to rebrand a little bit with the Serkworks Art Lab. So even though people don't know what Serkworks means, people understand what a lab is, you know. So Art Lab, they can kind of get that. Now, it's the other thing I'm doing is I'm trying to brand more the mad science supply, because that's kind of what I sell. Anything, if you were a mad scientist, where would you shop? You would shop at Serkworks Art Labs Mad Science Supply, all right? Because we have, you know, we've got a lot of geeky, you know, sciencey stuff, you know, geeky bow ties. If you're going to take over the world, you might as well look good while doing it. I've got like inspirational prints that will inspire you to take over the world. I've got, you know, lab experiments, all this kind of stuff that fits under that banner. So just to make that a little more clear, I went with sort of the newer logo, a little more simple. And of course, it doesn't have that wow factor, but in a situation like these Comic-Cons, sometimes simpler is better. So I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to throw up a picture of my booth so you can kind of see. I'll show you last year's and I'll show you this year's. But as you can see, this here, I don't know if you can see, I don't think it's all going to get in the shot. I need a cameraman is what I need. But so it's a little easier to follow. People can look at that. It's, you know, the type is a little, you know, blocky. It's not as crazy as the other one. I mean, I really do like the other one because it was fun and everything, but you know, sometimes you have to decide what works better as far as what's gonna increase your sales and things. What's gonna you know, work better for your company. It may not just be a flashy, fun sign like I had before. So that's the one thing I did, and I did notice that it did help it because people did read it. I heard a lot of people saying Mad Science Supply, and they read it. I didn't get anyone reading saying Sewerworks, so that's good. And that last year, I think there were more than one people that said that, and I think part of that is people kind of see what they want to see. So I've got some crazy, like part of my display are these wacky little pipes. I kind of wanted it to look like a cross between like almost like a Willy Wonka type thing with crazy pipes and almost like a factory / laboratory. And I think that was part of the issue. I think that's where the Sewerworks came from, because in some ways it looks like sewer pipes, like a colorful Ninja Turtle type thing. So that's probably where that was coming from. And that obviously that's not the point I'm trying to get across. So anyway, that the display, I think it really did work. So I'm glad that I did that. I'm going to continue. I'm not going to change that because that seems to be working. The other thing I started doing this year is I looked into different display options. So one thing I picked up was this thing. I picked up a few of these wire racks. So I got this, and this is actually, I got a pretty good deal on it. I got 2 of these for like, I think $50, which is actually pretty good considering I shopped around and I saw some other ones that were a lot more expensive. Now these were designed to put CDs on, and I think that's probably why they were so cheap, because people don't really buy CDs anymore. But you know, there's no reason why you can't put other things on there like prints or comic books or whatever. So I got a couple of these, and I'm probably going to invest in maybe a couple more, because the one thing I found was last year, even with the big booth, I was running out of table space, And I was surprised, once I set up these more vertical displays on my table, I had more room. It looked like I had less stuff on there, even though I did have more product than last year. And that's kind of a good thing, because one of the things that I talked about in the last video, one of the things I'm kind of finding to be the case, is that when you're selling all kinds of different things, sometimes it can get confusing for customers. So if you kind of make it, separate things a little more, it's not as overwhelming for people, and they can kind of figure out what you're doing. So anyway, so those work real well. The other cool thing I got was this, and I'm definitely going to probably pick up another one of these, but like a little spinner rack. Now, if you're old like me, this is how they used to sell comics, on these spinner racks. This is a smaller one, so it doesn't work for comics so well, but I got my tiny prints, like my postcard size prints. They fit right in there, you know. And then my original sketch cards, my blueprint sketch cards that I sketched for March of Robots Challenge. So those are all in there, and people can spin them around, and I had these things full, so, you know, instead of just, before what I had was just a kind of a big stand-up thing that didn't move, and so you just get a lot more real estate on your table with these things, and people like to spin it around. People like, you know, things that are interactive that they can kind of check out. They like browsing through things. So it's always a good idea to have these kind of displays up on your table, as well as, you know, artwork in the background. But so that seemed to work pretty well. The other thing that I realized that helped a lot was, before I had some smaller prints, like, you know, these are 8x10 size prints, and I had them in the backdrop along with my larger prints. And this is a series I did called Retroventions. They're like inventions that could have never really existed, like a combination between like a Viewmaster and a Polaroid camera. There's sort of an old portable, like Atari 2600 style game, and then a portable LP player. So these type, when I designed these, I thought, I was like, oh, people are going to love these. These are real cool. I like the idea and everything. But they were always kind of back here, and they really didn't sell very good. But I tell you what, once I put them up front, especially small prints, because they get lost back there, I put them up front on these stands, and they sold really, really well. So I'm definitely glad I did that. And I found one thing this time around, that, I've got my standard prints. Let me show you this one here. The other thing I did with this Phoenix Comicon was I did an exclusive print. So this is the design for my exclusive print. It's sort of, it's based on the old, kind of those old anime cartoons, like, Voltron or Battle of the Planets, or there's so many of those type of shows. So it's kind of based on those, but it's, this exclusive to Phoenix Comicon, so it's Phoenix Force 5, and it's got the big giant robot with the, with the Phoenix Comicon logo and everything, and I branded it, and, this was an exclusive print. It's limited and everything. So I did really well with this print, because it was on the website as one of their exclusive prints. People would come. I didn't know how many to get, and actually I started selling out of certain sizes of them and everything, and so I had to keep ordering more, and hopefully getting them in time and everything, which I did, which was awesome. So the exclusive prints seemed to really work, and I like the print design. But this is kind of the standard size print that I usually sell. It's 18 by 20. And those sell all right, but I was finding that I was selling a lot of the smaller size prints. So I'm going to start designing more, and I had designing more smaller prints, and I always had this idea, and I still kind of stick by it, but not to put the same size, or the same print on different size, or the same design on different size prints, because it seems like people will always go for the smaller one, and especially now, because I think, people there's not so much room on their walls. So many people are selling prints that their walls are so full, so a lot of people were asking for smaller sizes. Now maybe that's because it's cheaper, I don't know, but if I can sell 2 for every one of the bigger prints, then I'm making about the same amount of money. And and these things, the smaller prints do sell. Now I still don't want to put, I still don't want to take those larger prints and put them on the smaller ones, so I want to come up with some new designs. But one thing that I did do this year that I did not really expect to work was, especially like with I did some giant prints. These are 20 by 30. Now I did these just because they look good. They're big, giant. They're, I figured, oh, it's good advertising, but they're going to go for the smaller one, or the medium-sized one, which is the 11 or the 18 by 20. But to my surprise, a lot of people opted for these big prints, which was really cool. So now the reason why I did this design on two different size prints is because my profit margin on both of them is about the same. So I usually, on each one of these, I'll earn around $18 to $20 if I'll sell one. Just because the price of the smaller one versus what I've had to pay for the big one. So there's really not that much difference. So it doesn't really matter to me if I sell a smaller one or a larger one. In the case of this size, it would probably make a little difference. But like I said, I think I could probably sell 2 for every one of those, and and kind of boost that up. So I was really surprised with that, with the larger prints. That was one thing I did differently, and it really seemed to pay off. So let's see, what else? So one of the things, like I was talking before, I'm trying to phase out all of kind of the pop culture type fan art prints, and one of the things I want to talk about is, now, the reason why, I've talked about this before, but the reason why those type of prints sell, like if you're doing Batman or something from Marvel or DC or a popular show, whatever it is, whether it's Supernatural or something like that. So here's something new that I did this year. Now, as I was talking about before, I had some kind of leftover like pop culture prints that really don't fit my brand that I'm kind of trying to get rid of. I'll show you a little bit what I'm talking about. So I had this one where, it's Doc Brown and Batman, and then the Batmobile and the DeLorean are crashed. I've got this one where, Ghostbusters, they're like in a rap crew, the DJ, and they're using the proton packs as like mics and things like that. And then, this Avatar one where it's, Avatar, like Appa is kind of like the riding toy and everything. So I had these, and I want to get rid of them, but I don't really want to display them because they don't fit the brand. So this is what I came up with. Now, if you've been to shows, you might notice that, or you don't even have to go to these shows, but if you're familiar at all with like Loot Crate or those type of things, shows do stuff like that where they have like these big mystery boxes that look like a lot of them are decorated like the boxes that that Mario jumps on in Super Mario's and everything, and like mystery boxes like that. I've seen people just do like comic long boxes, but they're decorated, just all kinds of like mystery things. So I wanted to do something like that, but I wanted to brand it with, as a mad scientist, evil genius type theme. So I came up with these. These are my test tubes. And basically what I do is it's like a mystery box. So I was selling these for $25. There's probably about $75 worth of merchandise on this. And I put a little sign explaining that and everything. And right on it says, what's in the tube. And I got tons of people coming up like, oh, so what's in the tube? And then I tell them, so I'd show my prints in the background. And like I said, so I usually would include like one, I think there were like 2 large prints, and large meaning this size. Now I wanted to, I didn't want to just put in all of this stuff that I'm just trying to get rid of. Although, it hurts me to say this, but people are probably would be more interested in getting into pop culture stuff than the other stuff I'm doing. So I don't think they were too upset about that, because that was stuff that they probably weren't expecting to get. But I've got other stuff. So I've got this 3D print that I designed, and I display this, and it works really well for a display. I've got the 3D glasses, and people come by, they try it out and everything. But the thing is that particular print really doesn't sell, and I think the reason why is because people buy prints to put them on their walls, and unless you have the 3D glasses on, it's kind of weird, But I think in giving it to somebody, putting it in one of these packages with the 3D glasses, that adds a little more value than just a regular print. So I put a couple of the larger prints. A couple smaller ones. There's like an original sketch card in here. There's like the tiny prints and some of my monster cards. I got a set of mix and match monster cards. So all that stuff. So like I said, it's about $75 worth of stuff. And I can sell it for $25 because a lot of this is stuff that I'm trying to clear out. And I throw in some new things along the way. I think I probably put one of these newer ones in there. So it just depends. You know, it's a mystery box, so whatever you get. But these did pretty well. I sold them. And it's funny because some of the people that I was selling them to, they also had the other mystery boxes. So I think there's people that go to these cons just to buy mystery boxes. But anyway, I like that idea. I'm probably going to actually bring this over to my website and sell some of these on my website as well. But I like the idea. Now, originally, my original idea was I wanted to try to get some big like novelty test tubes. You know, I looked all over. I don't know if they make anything like that. At least not economical enough where I could sell them like this. But I think this gets the point across. It's a test tube. It's a tube. Test tube meaning it fits in with the science theme and everything. So these did pretty well. So that was a new thing that I'm going to continue to do. Now the other thing is, since I am eliminating a lot of the pop culture stuff, and that's what people come for, that's what stands out to people, that's what they buy. There are my main customers are like science teachers and engineers and things like that, which that's not the core of what I mean. A lot of those people are into geeky stuff, which is good, but a lot of people do go for pop culture. So I really, in addition to the science theme stuff, I need to get stuff that still fits that science mold, but is recognizable, but isn't really a trademark that somebody else owns or things like that. So that's partially like this. I mean, these aren't anything. They're based on things that exist in reality, but they're not. They're something altogether new, but people can relate to it. So that type of thing. Same thing with like this print. I had people saying, "Oh, I got this because I just love Voltron," and it's not Voltron, but it does remind people of Voltron. So it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly somebody else's intellectual property that you're kind of taking and selling. Another thing, this is another print that I did, so this is along those same lines. So I realized, and I didn't know this at first, but Sriracha, which is very popular, I love Sriracha sauce, isn't a registered trademark. Sriracha itself. Now, the one most people know is the Hoi Fang. I think that's how you pronounce it. But that's the one with the rooster. But they, if somebody else tried to create a Sriracha sauce with a rooster on it in a similar bottle, they would probably be infringing on a trademark. But as you can see, I got like a rooster mech. It doesn't say Hoi Fang or have any of their branding anywhere. The bottle might be close. You can see kind of it's fueled by Sriracha, and the bottles are similar to that, but there's no branding on them. So I think I'm cool with that. And I think it still gets the point across. So stuff like that, I want to try to get people's attention with things that they like, and not necessarily be stepping on something somebody else owns. So anyway, those are some of the things that I've done. And like I said, I mean, this is I think the landscape of the comic convention is changing, and I'm finding that it's for somebody that's doing what I'm doing, it's going to be an uphill climb. But I'm looking into other things. So, like I said, a lot of my biggest customers, the people that really get my stuff, the people that just go nuts over it, a lot of science teachers, engineers. I've like people in aerospace. I've got like a couple rocket scientists that come to my booth because I've got a line of like Rocket Surgery Institute. I've got messenger bags, which those sell pretty well. Is another thing that I brought out, and prints and things like that. So I'm going to start looking into more like tech-based conventions. The thing is, a lot of those, they cost a little more to exhibit at because they're more for like, a lot of these are like big companies that go in there. So, but I think that cost, even though, relatively speaking, comic conventions are pretty inexpensive to exhibit at. But I think I could just I think I could do really well at those type of shows. So, you know, that's my hunch anyway. That's what I'm going to gamble on. So I think I'm going to pay some of the extra money for one of those booths, and we're talking, those usually run around, I mean, they could be like usually around $2,500. So they're a little more pricier than like an Artist Alley booth, usually around somewhere around $200, $300. A booth at a convention is somewhere close to, you know, $800, $900,000. So it's quite a bit more. But I think I'm going to be really the only one there doing my thing. I'm not going to have to compete with people that are going to, you know, no one there is really going there to get like Deadpool prints, and they, you know, I don't think anyone else at these type of shows are going to be doing what I'm doing. So I'm going to start looking into more of those. I'm still going to do some comic conventions, probably on a smaller scale. I'm probably going to move back to not just a Artist Alley table, but probably a couple Artist Alley tables, which will give me close to the amount of you know, real estate that I have at a booth. But, you know, these shows are all about, you know, they're, like they said, they're ever changing. Who knows, you know, down the road, 5 years, what it becomes. Is it going to be more and more fan art? Are people going to decide that they have so many prints that they can't fill their, you know, that they can't do anything more with in their house? Are they going to switch to wanting something else like books or things like that? I don't know, but we're gonna, you know, it's a journey, and that's kind of what these videos are for, just to kind of give you behind the scenes what I'm doing. If you're doing like fan art and stuff, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna do pretty well. For me, I've got to swerve a little bit. I've got to kind of go and try some new things out, because, you know, while, you know, did I make a profit? Yeah, I made a small profit, but considering all the time I put into it, I really, you know, I'm even though, you know, it's hard to say, because when I go to these conventions, I also do have a lot of fun, because I'm seeing a lot of people I know, and, you know, and I like checking out all that stuff, and that's cool. But, you know, this is a business, and I'm trying to, you know, be profitable about it. So I'm going to start looking into other things, and I will keep you guys informed as what works and what doesn't and everything. And if something doesn't work, switch it around until you find, eventually you're going to find something that works for you. And when you find that thing, and I'm not quite sure if I've found it. I've got a lot of little things that add up, you know, but I haven't found that one thing that just, you know, just people love. So I'm going to keep working at it. So, and I suggest you do that too. If you haven't exhibited at a convention, you know, check it out. You know, start small, start with the Artist Alley table. You can always move up, and then in some cases, like me, if you need to kind of take a step back and reevaluate and everything, you can do that too. But anyway, that's kind of what's been going on with me. That was my Phoenix Comicon experience. I will be back, I'm sure, next year for another Phoenix Comicon, as well as some other shows, and I will hopefully, you know, be able to come back on here and tell you about some of these other different kind of conventions and other avenues that I've tested out, and see how those do. And maybe if you kind of got a weird niche market that doesn't quite fit into, it's sort of pop culture, but maybe doesn't fit so much into this current landscape of comic conventions, maybe you might want to look into something like that. But anyway, so that's going to do it for another episode of Pro vs. Con. I hope you got something out of it. Like I said, this is more kind of for me. It's a lot of this stuff. I don't know if it's going to pertain to what you guys do, but hopefully you learned something. If you have any questions, let me know. Leave a comment in the comments section. You can hit me up. You can hit me up on an email if you got something longer or whatever. I don't know. Be sure to subscribe if you like these videos, all that stuff. I will be back with, I don't know if it'll be a while probably before I do another Pro vs. Con, but I'm always giving out advice, and I'm always doing something on my YouTube channel. I got tons of videos on there, so check it out. And if you like it, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks again. I'll see you guys later. That is all.